You don't get to do what you want just because you want.
I know on the ground, I've been put in the penalty box a few times. Have you ever been threatened by a pilot? If I was in the back of his airplane and got wind of that, I would have said, let me out. Okay, but that's my opinion. This is the Captain and Kennedy Air Show. I'm Captain Steve.
And I'm Kennedy Steve.
And we've got a lot to get to on this one. We've got the Torrance Tantrum pilot. We're going to talk about him extensively, and we're going to take your questions on it. The comments were unbelievable on this. We got a lot of great questions on that. We're also going to talk in this episode about this space on YouTube and using it for good, right? And what is there an obligation that comes with having a platform? And then we're going to talk about and do an interview with at the end a wonderful young lady, 17 years old. Her name is Kaylyn. She is a Make-A-Wish kid, had cancer. She's a survivor, about to go on her wish, and also the CEO of Eastern North Carolina, Mary Elizabeth. Fascinating interview, very intimate. You're going to love it, so hang around for that. All right, Steve, let's talk about the Torrance Tantrum. Did you follow this story?
I did. It was unbelievable to me, actually.
Yes. Okay. So I did a couple of videos from my side of the fence, just kind of shaking my head in disbelief. As an air traffic controller, you're minding your own business, having a good day, in a good mood.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everything changes. So what was your reaction to the air traffic controller, the lady, especially in the beginning, and then what happened to her through this pilot?
So, I think the first thing that can be said was, first of all, she was a rock star.
Yeah.
She was absolutely outstanding because he kept throwing problems at her and she's like, okay. All we're going to do is find a solution. And you could tell throughout the recording that, you asked for A and this is what we're giving you. And now A's not good enough. But I thought she was magnificent. I really did. I mean, she was an aspirational air traffic controller. I thought she was stupendous.
Yeah, I can't agree more because the goal line kept moving.
Absolutely.
At first he comes in and he throws out that little, I'd like a wide approach. Okay, that was a little, we know now that was pregnant with meaning. And she says, well, and then they have a kind of a cordial, not a fun conversation about, yeah, we agree that this is a problem, but there's nothing we can do about it right this moment. Well, he's got different aspirations on that. So she says, well, I'll bring you nice and tight into Torrance, not unsafe, just we got to keep you within 3 miles. You can maneuver a citation within 3 miles. Trust me on that. He's not having any of it, right? Because he wants to make a point. Back and forth they go. He keeps moving the goal line. Finally, he then starts to threaten her. Have you ever been threatened by a pilot?
You know what? In my career, I've only had one experience that was close. We had, during runway construction at Kennedy, they had 31 left closed for months to redo it. And it was a particularly windy day. Strong northwest winds. And, the FAA had talked to all the airlines about what you can take in terms of max crosswind, this, that, and the other. And we had this flight from LA, your former airline. And, pilot came in over Lindy, which, final approach fixed almost directly over New York City, 17,000 feet descending. And the wind kind of shifts around rather dramatically, and we go from 22s, and now we're going to go up and down 31 right, so you can land directly into the wind. So as he continues in the descent, the weather improves, and we go back to 22s. And, this is late in the afternoon, and we need 2 arrival runways in spite of the wind configuration. So the pilot checks on for 22 left on the visual and says the ILS isn't up, and we turn on the ILS because we had 31 right up, and we give him the wind of like 310 at 20, gusting to 35. He goes, can't take it. And then the controller says, okay, can't take it. And the captain or the FO comes back and says, yeah, if we don't get 31 right, we're going to declare an emergency. And the controller says, okay, you're going around. Fly runway heading, maintain 2000. FO says, no, we're going to declare an emergency. Voice changes, captain gets on and goes, We're entering a left base for 31 right. Get everything out of our way. We've declared an emergency. We're going to land. And we're like, whoa. You don't just fly runway heading. We'll get you turned to vector you back into 31 right because we have airplanes on the approach for both 22 left and 22 right. We have airplanes on the ground on 31 right trying to be sequenced because this is the second runway change in 20 minutes. And that guy was just insistent, and he just made a left turn, came in and landed 31 right. We got everything out, and his words, get everything out of my way. I'm coming in to land 31 right. And he did.
Wow. Yeah. So one of the things I said on the video I did about the Torrance tantrum was, one of the rules for me as a pilot is don't let somebody outside your cockpit fly your airplane for you. But on the other side of the fence, your side of the fence, don't let somebody in your airspace manage your airspace for you. And this guy sounds like he's managing your airspace for you via an emergency, which he can declare. But at the same time, you want to work with each other, right? And say, all right, I can't land on that runway. I need 31 right. Let you coordinate that and say, okay, I need you to go around. I'll get you out here. We'll coordinate that. That allows you the time and space. But when he declares an emergency, he's kind of like he's twisting your arm, or he's making something happen and compressing it. It's unsafe, I would say, on almost every level.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, we've had pilots declare emergencies with an engine out, and they're flying around, to get vectored straight into the runway. This guy was like, no, I'm coming in, and I'm coming in now. And everybody in the tower's like, whoa, wait a minute.
He didn't declare a fuel emergency, nothing like that.
No, he declared, I'm unhappy having my third approach in 30 minutes. I want to land 31 right into the winds.
Okay.
It's, our interpretation of what the emergency was.
Yeah.
And it would have been less of a deal if he had just, gone around, get vectored back around to the ILS 31 right so we can get everything off the 22s, kind of make it a little safer versus us trying to scramble two finals and a departure or two and some taxiing airplanes. We're like, no. I'm going to be on the ground in 5 minutes, get everything out of the way. And I guess it's one thing, if you tell me I'm going to be on the ground in 5 minutes because I've got one engine out of 4 working and I really need to get out on the ground.
Yeah.
That's kind of a different story.
Yeah.
That was not this story.
Super frustrating. And this gal here, I imagine that she was frustrated, but extremely professional. And you mentioned that the superstar, right, in how she handled this, because she's laughing a little bit back and forth, light-hearted banter back and forth with this guy. He keeps ratcheting it up. Then he threatens her with an emergency. Then he declares an emergency, a fake emergency. And then she goes right into the mode of, oh, well, you've declared an emergency. Well, here's how we're going to handle that. Like a professional.
Yep.
What that means to you and I, as I explained on my video, is she's got to pick up the phone and call LAX and say, basically, I got an emergency aircraft that's going to come into your airspace. And LAX says, well, we got to shut everything down. Okay, well, it's an emergency. So they shut everything down. Now, if it was a legit emergency, yeah, okay, that's the real world you have to live in. This is a fake one. It's a made up one, a quasi one. But this guy, because he's the center of the universe, shuts down the entirety of LAX. I'm telling you, that is a huge deal while he gets vectored around the way he wants to and brought into Torrance. And by the way, there are other airports you can land at other than Torrance. All right, just saying.
Could have gone to Van Nuys.
Yep.
Would have been a non-event. And the funny thing for me was when he first became, and I'll use the word obstinance, didn't really like the controller's plan. And she said, no problem. I'll give you what you want. I just need you to turn you southbound because I need to coordinate with the LA sector because she's not working the LA sector and she can't go into that airspace. I just need to coordinate with LA to hand you off so you can get put on the approach you want, which was the RNAV to 1-1.
Yeah.
And 45 seconds later, it's like, nope, I'm not going to Catalina Island. I'm not going south. You've wasted enough fuel. I'm sorry, I'm declaring an emergency. And then she just went, okay, the world is yours. And she gave him exactly what she wanted and turned off both the arrival and the departure flow in LAX.
Wow. And for those of you who are not familiar, and there's a few of you that aren't familiar with this, then he gets the dreaded phone number, write down a number after he gets down on the ground. He refuses to write down the number, gets out of his airplane and leaves. They try to hand it to him. He won't take it. The next day he comes back to fly his airplane out And they start out with, we want you to write down a number. And he refuses again. They eventually get him the phone number. He says, I'm going to file a complaint. All right, fine. And he blasts off to his destination. So having said that, you folks have had a ton of questions, and we've got a bunch of them right here, and they're excellent. So let's take some of our viewer questions. All right, the first question is from John Higgins, 9838. My curious question, going back to the initial report, is why didn't the controller just tell him to leave the airspace, refuse that one, and now they are just fodder for the mill? Can you just refuse somebody? Why didn't they say, get out of my airspace?
So he's on an IFR flight plan, or the flight was on an IFR flight plan, and really the only way you can exclude somebody out of, quote, your airspace is if they're VFR. On an IFR flight plan, you accept the handoff, in comes the airplane. And, you know, if you can't work the airplane, you can put it in a hold, but you can't just say, no, yeah, I'm not going to, you don't get to participate anymore. I don't like you. It doesn't work like that.
I know on the ground, you know, I've been put in the penalty box a few times.
Right.
And, you know, you get told to park and then you just sit there for a while. How long are we going to sit here? Stand by. We're working on it, you know, and that's the penalty box. Up in the air, I guess the penalty box would be holding. But
it's a holding pattern.
But a responsible controller wouldn't do that, right? You can't just say,
oh, no. You if you put somebody in a hold, as they used to say on I Love Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
Yes.
You don't just get to go, yeah, go make a few circles because, you know,
I'm not happy with you right now.
Yeah, I'm not happy till you're not happy.
Right. Well, she's a professional. He's in a bad mood. All right. Next question is this. It's from Dennis Doherty. Can you imagine this guy landing at JFK?
I will. You know what? I would say that I think he wouldn't have been met with, I say the level of professionalism would have been the same once he declared the emergency. But prior to that and all that gesticulation, that wouldn't have gone over big.
Right. So you told me previously you never violated anybody in your entire career as an air traffic controller.
Correct.
Would you have violated this guy?
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
Absolutely. Like no.
Wow. No hesitation on that.
No, because I think the difference is the number of people that were impacted by his decision making. I'm not going to explain that, and I think the pilot needs to explain that to somebody.
Yeah,
and that's flight standards. And because there were so many other people impacted, you know, it would be like, and here's a good, you know, for instance, for you, you know, you're shooting the Canarsie approach to 13, and you say, nope, I want to straight into 13. Why? Because I don't want to make the turn. And all of a sudden I have to shut down LaGuardia and Newark to bring you straight into 13. Well, you're going to have to explain that action.
Right. Right.
You know, you don't get to do what you want just because you want.
Yeah. Okay. Well, very, very good answer. All right. So in all fairness, I want to be fair. We've been talking about this pilot. I don't want to mention his name. Some people have been trying to send his name in the comments, and please stop doing that, folks. That's not what this channel is all about. We do want to be fair here, though. And I want to say, if you're listening, if you're the pilot of this flight or you know the pilot, we would love to invite you to come on. And because I know there's two sides to every story. I'm telling my side of the story as I see it and listen to it. I know that there's more to this story than what I know. And so we would love to be fair to you here in this forum, either via Zoom or come and join us right here at the table. And let's have a cordial conversation about what actually happened. And we would love to do that. So that's an open invitation. There's an email down below in the description. Reach out to that email, start the conversation. We would love to have you on here out of just an overabundance of wanting to be fair with this conversation and this discussion. All right, but there's more questions. Here we go. All right. So I got AKCQ8 writes this. You inserted the actual scene where he says, he's talking about the video I made. All right. Where the guy says, we don't need no stinking bedges. Then you got to the Paul Harvey reference. You hit an out of the park grand slam with this video, Captain Steve. All right. That's just a comment. Thank you very much for that. Right. My mind just works like that. And our great editors found all of those clips to throw in. All right. Here's a legit question. It's from Marcy Craig, 8934. Is there anything the public can do to make sure that a pilot that has proven to be a risk to the public has their license revoked. How can one pilot be allowed to shut down LAX and disrespect the previous precious time of an air traffic controller than is managing the safety of multiple airplanes in flight? That's a good question. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something, right?
Absolutely. And, I think what everybody needs to remember is, the controller, when we allege, because that's what we're doing, a possible pilot deviation, there's usually, we give a phone number, there's a conversation usually between a management official at the tower, the approach control, or the center about what happened, and they make a decision as to whether actually to file a pilot deviation or not, and then it's out of our hands. Then it goes to the flight standards people, the licensing authority, as to whether that was a deviation and what penalties should be involved.
Right, absolutely. And then there's a difference between intentions and actions. So many times somebody will have a good intention. I don't believe that this guy's intentions were bad. I think he probably had a grievance. That wasn't the place to air your grievance, right? As you're turning final into Torrance. There's a different mechanism for doing that. You don't do that with the air traffic controller and shut down LAX. Your actions were one thing, and that's what we're talking about here is the actions, not the intention part. There's also the old Aesop fable of the boy who cried wolf. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, back in the day. And Aesop, 2,500 years old, basically the shepherd boy, for fun, kept crying wolf, and the townspeople came out, and there was nothing, and he was pulling a prank on them, and he thought that was funny. When the real wolf showed up, nobody came to help. All the sheep get devoured, and it ends up being a life lesson now forever going forward is be careful where you pick your fights, and if you cry wolf, then you might have a real emergency and you want it to be treated properly. He did the next day. So when he comes back to work, he finally gets the phone number. He blasts off to Henderson. The part that we didn't follow on that was as he's going into Henderson, his windshield cracks and he has to declare a real emergency. Now, fortunately, air traffic control is very professional. They handle it professionally. And the guys over in Henderson didn't know what the dust up in Torrance. I wonder if he'd had a cracked windshield coming into Torrance the next day, how they would have handled that.
You know what? I think they would have handled it professionally. And the thing that I found striking, and you're the pilot, not me, but from back in my Teterboro days, on the way in, so insistent about safety and maneuverability and how much airspace he needs to get his airplane on the ground at Torrance. On the way out, he's going to go VFR. Like, I wouldn't fly in a Citation VFR in New York.
Right.
Like, no way.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Right. Yeah, that was that back and forth when it was a tennis match for a little while when they called him up and said, hey, we want you to write down a number. You have to call for your clearance. He pivots really fast and says, clearance? I don't need no stinking clearance. I'll just go VFR. I'm going VFR. So you have to let me taxi. Oh, my word. I had... Just my opinion. I said, if I was in the back of his airplane and got wind of that, I would have said, let me out. Okay. But that's my opinion. Okay. So that's great questions on this one. Let's pivot now. Before we get to this interview with Kaylyn, and Kaylyn was wonderful. You're not going to want to miss this interview with this young lady. Just fantastic. Let's talk about this space that we're in on YouTube and the platform and how people use it, and whether you use it for good, whether you're indifferent. What are your thoughts on, because you're starting to get a voice now. Kennedy Steve's got his own channel. It's growing. You ought to go over and subscribe to his channel. The content is fantastic. But you can now that you're getting a voice in the space, use it for good or use it for other. Share some of your thoughts on that.
You know what? And we spoke about this earlier. In my little brain, I've always thought there are two types of people in this world: people who think about themselves first, or people who think about everybody else first. And you're obviously a better person if you think about everybody else first. And that's how I try to live my life. If this platform allows me the opportunity to help people, I am 1,000% behind that.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I mean, it's part of your legacy. You want to be thought of is doing good, not doing bad.
Right. Yeah. The way I've always put that is there's givers and there's takers.
Yep.
And there are times where we have to take something. You have a life incident, a tragedy, whatever, and you have to take. People who are truly wired as givers, they're really awkward at taking because they feel like, I don't want to impose on you, and I don't want to. It's almost a pleasure because of the level of humility with those folks to do something good for them. Although they're pushing back the whole time because they want to give. The people that are truly takers, they'll just keep taking. As much as you give, they'll take. And you can see that, we all get a little crazy about social media these days, and for good reason, right? There's lots of stuff that is going on that's awful. At the same time, there's a ton going on that's really good, and you can't lose the good in the midst of the bad. And in this, all we've got a little bit of control over is our voice and our space here in the aviation commentator space on YouTube and the other social media platforms. It's been our aim here. Shortly after we got started, we said, hey, we've got a good platform. People are listening. They're tuning in. We've got 1 million and almost 1.2 million subs on YouTube. By the way, go subscribe to his channel, Kennedy Steve. It's growing. It's fantastic stuff. Show him some love on his channel. But along that comes a voice and an obligation. So about 1.5 years ago, we started a Make-A-Wish Foundation program where we were trying to raise some money for Make-A-Wish. It had to do with this lanyard that I wear. And most people that have watched the videos that I've done about the lanyard understand completely why I wear the lanyard. There's a few out there who don't, and they've jumped to a conclusion, and they've got a kind of a rabid group of followers that criticize me for wearing a lanyard. I don't know why. I don't know who died and left anybody in charge of the internet, but I can wear whatever I want on my show, but whatever. All right. The story behind this lanyard is I have 3 grandchildren that all have had a wish through Make-A-Wish. They all have a terminal diagnosis. They all went to Disney for their Make-A-Wish. And when they get down to Disney, they give them a lanyard. And the lanyard, everybody down there recognizes, and they treat these kids like kings and queens while they're down there for the week. It's absolutely fantastic. So I told each one of my grandkids, Poppy will wear a lanyard. When you see me on YouTube or on social media, I'll be wearing the lanyard. I'm thinking about you guys. That was it. All right. But I had somebody in particular just make a point of criticizing me, mocking me really, for wearing this. And I thought, well, you know what? I could either respond directly back to that, or we could do something good with our platform. And that's where the Make-A-Wish connection came from. So last year we decided, like, let's do a Make-A-Wish fundraiser, not for my 3 grandkids because they'd already had theirs, but let's do one and let's raise, I don't know. I think we thought internally we'd raise maybe $25,000. $5,000 of it was going to be a matching gift from us. We raised $150,000. Absolutely blew me away, the generosity and the connection with this community. So folks, thank you again. I can't thank you enough for that. Now it's time for the next year, and we're going to start our Make-A-Wish fundraiser in connection with all of this. We raised $150,000 last year. That's where we're going to start this year. I think that's a good starting place. Our platform is much bigger than it was. And so there's a link down below. If you can give, and you can give generously, please do. It's going to affect a kid in Eastern North Carolina. There's 283 that are waiting for their wish. And there's just not the resources to meet every single wish. It's about $10,000 a wish. So if you can give whatever amount, it's all going to add up, right? There's great power in numbers here. So having said that, Steve, I think I agree with you. You ought to use the platform for good. There are those who are givers. There are those who are takers. Let's see, how many givers there are in the Captain Steve and the Kennedy Steve community, right?
I'm optimistic that there are a bunch, and I can think of very few organizations that are more worthy than Make-A-Wish. There's nothing better than seeing a kid who has overcome or is battling adversity be happy.
Yeah.
For a few days.
Right.
For a few hours.
Yeah.
I think, one of the greatest traditions, everybody talks about, we're about to have college football Saturdays, right?
Right.
One of the greatest traditions in college football is what they do at the University of Iowa at Kinnick Stadium. Because if you don't know, Kinnick Stadium is built right next to the Children's Hospital. And at the end of, I think it's the third quarter, it might be the first, might be the third. Sorry, don't remember. Everybody on that field turns and waves to the kids in the children's hospital who do nothing on Saturdays but look out the windows and watch college football.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see.
Wow. That's fantastic. All right. Well, let's do this. We brought, I did a wonderful interview with Kaylyn and Mary Elizabeth. She's the CEO of Make-A-Wish, Eastern North Carolina. Really heartwarming. You're going to absolutely love this interview. Let's go there now. Let's bring in Kaylyn and Mary Elizabeth. Well, we're joined today on the set by Mary Elizabeth. She's the CEO of Make-A-Wish of Eastern North Carolina. And Kaylyn, welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. All right. So let's talk about, Kaylyn, I want to start with you. I want to talk about, our audience wants to get to know you. We want to talk about your story. We're going to talk about Make-A-Wish here in a minute, but tell us your background. How did you get introduced to Make-A-Wish?
So I guess during the process of everything that I was going through, you know, they told me from the start, you know, once everything was more so closer to time when it's done, that I would be granted a wish. And I didn't know about it until they told me. I didn't know anything about wish. I didn't know, you know, that was a thing until they told me. And I just thought it was a really good thing, you know, for kids and teens like us, you know, struggling and going through something that's very life-changing. And I just think Make-A-Wish like really brought a lot of happiness, you know, knowing that everything I went through and fought through, you know, there's definitely going to be a happy ending to this, and I'm going to get to enjoy, you know, what wish has granted me.
Right. How old are you now?
17.
And when did you start the process? And what I want to get at is, you know, did Make-A-Wish reach out to you? Did somebody from you or your family reach out to them? How did that get?
And
how old were you when that started?
I was 16.
So just a year ago.
Yes, just a year ago. So it was like this lady at the hospital. She would like come and see me every now and then. She's the one who introduced us to Make-A-Wish, and she gave us all the information and like how it would work. You know, I would be granted a wish, and then, you know, just the process of everything.
Yeah.
Had you, so you had never heard of Make-A-Wish before?
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
How exciting.
Hey, see, this is news to you as well.
Yes, I did not know that you had never heard, but I've heard that from several of our Wish kids that they had not heard of Make-A-Wish before going through treatment. Remind us which hospital?
Duke.
At Duke.
Yes. Okay.
Nice.
So if you're comfortable with it, tell our audience a little bit about your diagnosis.
So I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 2. And it, I'm going to try not to get emotional, but so I found out, I want to say beginning of June, or June is when I started. I know it was like the beginning of the year. They told me that, you know, I had like some lymph nodes that were very swollen, all this. So, you know, I had to get that checked and everything. But when I found out, it was definitely like, something I still couldn't process for the longest time. It just never clicked for me. Like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I have cancer. Like I'm going to be going through this, you know, but, you know, it wasn't horrible just because I knew that I had the biggest and the best support system of my family and my friends and just everybody around me. But it was definitely something that I still can't process till this day.
Sure.
But I'm just so glad that I'm here and I'm on this podcast and I'm getting to open about it and talk about it with you guys. So,
yeah. So were you feeling ill? What led up to starting to get the doctors to take a look?
So it started with me feeling like sick. So I would always get sick. And I think I was very sick at one point. So I went to the doctors and they decided to take a scan. And that's when, like, they couldn't really put a name to what they were seeing. So, like, they were just like, oh, like, it could be this, it could be that. And, like all that information, all the scans and pictures that got sent to like my my pediatric doctor, so like my main doctor, and immediately he was like, we need to get you into more scans. We need to get we need to get you looked at more because this is something serious. Like he knows something was up. And so after that, like once I got more scans, I was able to get like a biopsy done like on my neck, and I got 2 biopsies. So one was like here in the same area, I think. Yeah, no, sorry, it was here in my neck, and then they couldn't find anything, so I had to get another biopsy done, and that was like just 2 like needles that were getting like stuck in and like taking like a little chunk out just so they can test it and see what it was. And then from then they were able to tell us that it was Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Okay. So you start to see the doctors and they get that sense of urgency, and you pick up on that right away.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this doesn't, all of a sudden, how does that make you feel?
It was very nerve-wracking, and it had, it brought a lot of nerves and anxiousness to me. Because I was worried, I was like, well, I want to know what it is. Like, as soon as possible, whenever the doctors get anything back, I want to know what it is. Like, but it was definitely like it brought a whole bunch of emotions to me, just because I was trying to figure out what it was. And, at the same time that the doctors were. So it was just like a lot going through my mind, a lot of emotions everywhere.
Sure. Walk us through that moment now when the doctor comes back after all of the testing and biopsies and says, how does he introduce to you that you have cancer?
So he gave my mom a call, and I remember we were on the way to an appointment already to the doctors. They gave my mom a call, and they told her it's like, it's cancer, prepare her for when she comes, we can tell her, or she can tell me. And I immediately saw her start crying and tear up. And I just knew something wasn't right. And so she hung up the phone, and she tells me it's exactly what they think it is, and it's cancer. But we're going to figure out, what's the next steps. We're going to immediately jump into what's going to happen, how it's going to look for you. And like hearing those words, definitely like it was something very life-changing, because like you never expect to hear those words in your life, and especially coming from your mom, and finding out from the doctors. So it was it definitely set a lot of emotions off.
I can tell.
Yeah.
We're going to get you some tissues.
But it was just something that I can't still like process. I think I will always have that memory of, the day I found out.
Sure. Well, that's a major life event.
Yes.
There's nothing any bigger than that moment. And the shedding of tears is completely appropriate at that moment. And now, interestingly for me, I'm trying to walk through the process. So there's that sense of urgency from the doctors. You just want to know, right? You see the look in your mom's eyes, right? She's tearing up. You're thinking, this is it. Now I know. You get the diagnosis. Is there any universe where that was maybe a little bit of a relief finding out? Or is it, I don't understand, walk our viewers through that moment.
I think it did send a relief to me knowing, what was going on with my body, after so long, of me being sick. And nobody could ever figure out, why I was always getting sick, why I had these pains and everything. Like no doctor could ever figure it out. Like they just couldn't put a name to it. So I think finding out, that, it was cancer, that it sent a relief to me, because I was finally able to put a name to it of what was going on. But yeah.
Yeah. You seem like a fighter to me. Like, yeah, okay, just give me the facts.
Yeah.
I want to know. And so talk to us a little bit about the road ahead for you. We're going to talk about Make-A-Wish here in just a minute, but, maybe the prognosis and what, what did the doctor say about the prognosis? For you said stage 2. Okay, so I don't know, is there stage 4 and 5? And what is the probability of stage 2 developing into something worse, or what? Have you been through chemotherapy at all, or
Currently
anything like
in
that?
treatment, right?
No,
So you're completed treatment.
yeah, I've completed treatment.
There we go.
So you've completed treatment,
Yes,
right?
I completed. My last one was in December.
Okay.
So I've been
Hey.
6 months
Okay.
off of it.
Okay. Good. And what are they telling you now that you've been through the treatment?
They still, I still get checkups every like 2-3 months.
Mhm.
So in August, I'll go back and I get another scan, and it's just to make sure, my body's still looking normal, nothing's off or wrong. But yeah, they still check up on me. I get checkups and make sure like all my levels are good in my body and nothing's off or.
And this is going to be a lifelong
Yeah.
pursuit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now we get introduced to Make-A-Wish, all right, which is an organization that we absolutely love. And Mary Elizabeth, the CEO, is here. And so it's interesting that you were kind of curious about how Kaylyn got introduced to Make-A-Wish. Talk to us, Mary Elizabeth, about what's involved in making a wish. All right. So you get introduced to somebody who's a good candidate.
Yes.
Take us from there.
Well, I'm honored to be sitting beside a true superstar. We currently have 282 Wish kids waiting in our pipeline. We are lucky here in Eastern North Carolina to have really strong referral partners at Duke and UNC. I was actually visiting them this week. I always say that the doctors and the nurses hear the really sad, or hear and see the really sad part of this journey. Mm-hmm. But we come in because we exist truly just to create that joy. It's simple. So once the referral is made to our team, there's a 2-step qualification process. And then our volunteers have the most intimate experience with their families. I always encourage everyone to become a Wish granter. I'm a volunteer Wish granter too. And you get to go meet with the families and discover their wish. And we always are passionate about making sure the wish is the child's true heartfelt wish. So we'll ask those probing questions to get to the bottom of that. And then our team, we have we have several wish managers who get to plan the wishes. And they are like fairy godmothers and have the coolest job in the world and plan every magical touch. And then we get to go back to them and say, hey, your wish is being granted. So that's Kaylyn here soon. And it's a joyful celebrations. It's anything to make your life easier and special and not to have to worry about a single thing on your wish.
So is every wish the exact same? We're going to talk about your wish here in a minute, or are they different? How do you determine, you go to the child, and I'm saying child, you're not a child, but
you're a beautiful teenager.
the person, and say, okay, what do you want to do for your wish? Talk to me about the different types of wishes you've granted.
Absolutely. That's a great question too. Of course, Disney World is a popular wish of ours, but no Disney wish is the same. So going back to asking the probing questions about the child and what they're interested in, we go back and then we plan the wish according to them. So every wish is a magical experience customized and tailored to that specific child. This is a little insider knowledge, but the majority of our wishes fall into 5 main categories. So I wish to go as our travel wishes, and that's our most popular wish, with Disney being the most popular wish. I wish to meet, our second most popular category. So celebrity wishes, I wish to meet Michael Jordan, I wish to meet my favorite athlete, etc. I wish to be, those are really sweet. I wish to be a princess. I wish to be a mermaid. And then I wish to have a puppy. I wish to have a play set. And then we recently had a newer category emerge, which I think is really special. We've had a few kids wish to give back. So just a couple years ago, one of our teenage wish kids, 17, UNC, wished to give toys to the entire pediatric cancer floor. So you never know. Each wish is unique, to your point, but it's just really special to see what the kids want to do and that we're able to be a small part of it. I feel so lucky that I get to do this every day.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that not every wish is a trip to Disney.
No.
I think a lot of people think that's all you do is send kids to Disney. My 3 grandchildren, they've all had their wish. And they all chose Disney. Now that's not unusual because they're pretty small. They're pretty young, and once one does it, the other two are going, well, I'm going to Disney too, and I'm going to, they all want to go to Disney.
But how different were they all?
Oh, they were all completely different and wonderful. I mean, the people at in Orlando were just fantastic to him, and that's where the lanyard comes in. You've heard me talk on the channel about the significance of the lanyard because they get a Make-A-Wish lanyard when they go down there with their ID on it.
Yes.
But everybody, all the employees, all the characters, everybody at Disney is clued in to look for the lanyard. And when you see a Make-A-Wish lanyard, they treat these kids. It's so special. And to borrow a word from Disney, magical, right? Yes. The way they take care of them. And so my promise to my 3 sick grandkids was I'm going to wear this lanyard as often as I possibly can. Just so when they see their poppy on a camera on a screen, they see this and they know I'm thinking about them and praying about them, right?
What a special touch.
Yeah. And so sometimes it's inappropriate, you'll see me on the beach and I'll have my lanyard on and people go, what are you doing that for? Well, it's for my grandkids, right?
I want one now.
You want one now, right? So you said 283, did you say 283?
283, yes.
83
kids. And that number changes every day. And, Captain Steve, that's just here in Eastern North Carolina. Yeah. So a really powerful number. And we just had a new incidence and prevalence study done, something our team was very passionate about. And it showed that we're only reaching 51% of our kids. And that's with that 283 Wish Kid pipeline.
So that number could double?
Oh, yes. And our vision is to grant the wish of every eligible child. Right. And when you hear 51%, to me, that's not even coming close. Yeah. And so that's where the community comes into play, and our team wants to reach 100% and grant all of these wishes.
So right now, there's people listening right now. They're going, okay, I get it. I'd like to help with Make-A-Wish. How much does it cost for a single wish?
So the average cost of a wish is $10,000. Of course, our travel wishes, international wishes are more expensive. Some of our wishes are less, but the average in general is $10,000.
So on average, $10,000. Now, last year on this channel, we raised $150,000.
Unreal.
And that was through the generosity of our viewers.
Life-changing.
It is. And we, in all transparency, my producer's right back there. When we started the Make-A-Wish deal, I think we were thinking we maybe raised $10,000 or $15,000, and we were going to supply a third of that. We said the first $5,000 we'll match it, right?
Yes.
Well, we raised the first $5,000 in about a half an hour. It was meteoric. And so we had to write a check real fast. We got it up to $10,000. We ended up at $150,000 last year, which is absolutely fantastic.
I remember Olivia on our team calling me, and I just started crying. The power of your community,
right?
Wow.
And that's
what this is about.
So that's 15 wishes, but it's still just a drop in the bucket because there's 283. So, this year,
sadly,
we're gonna reach a little farther. Hopefully, but at least be able to help at a minimum, 15 young people get their wish. Now, I want to go back. Let's go back to your wish, Kaylyn. So what is your wish? What are you going to do and where are you going to go? And
so my wish is the Royal Caribbean cruise. It's coming up next month in August. So really excited. I get to go to the Bahamas, get to go to Puerto Rico, and to all these other.
Look at it go! I get to get.
Now we're talking.
You're looking forward to this, yeah.
Customized for Kaylyn.
But yeah, I'm super excited for this cruise.
Yeah. Well, you ought to be. I've gone on a couple of cruises, and Royal Caribbean's really nice, and those destinations are wonderful, and you're going to have a really terrific week. And how many days is it?
7.
7 days. All right, that's the perfect cruise. Right? You don't want to go on a 3-day cruise because by the time you unpack your bag, you're packing your bag again. But 7 days, you unpack and you get used to the ship and where you're going. And so what are you looking forward to most on this 7-day cruise?
Ooh, I'm looking forward to everything. I'm like just spending time with my family, and exploring the cruise, what it has or what activities they'll have there. And especially once we arrive to like the other destinations like Bahamas and Puerto Rico and all these other places, we get to explore that too. So I'm just looking forward to everything.
That's awesome. Now your entire family's going to go? Who's going with you?
So it's my mom, my stepdad, and my 2 younger sisters.
Great.
Yeah.
Right. All 5 of you. Wow, that's fantastic. Royal Caribbean, as I understand it, supports Make-A-Wish Foundation. So, and we were on a cruise not too long ago on a Royal Caribbean, and they were doing a Make-A-Wish fundraiser. It wasn't connected with me at all. We just happened to be on the cruise. And they were auctioning off some things. And one of the things they auctioned off was a trip up to the bridge to blow the horn of the ship. And so they one guy was bidding it up, and I was like, I'd really love to do that, So I said to my wife, I go, I'm bidding, so I raised my hand. And we started competing with each other, and the price was getting kind of up there. And finally, the lady who was running the whole thing, she said, hold on. She said, and she got on the phone, and she called the captain, and she said, can we grant 2 of these to blow the horns? And we'll give it to both of them. And so we did. So they ended up raising twice the money. Right, because of that, and I was like,
it's the way to do it.
I was like a kid in a candy store, so you're gonna love.
How appropriate for you to be connected with.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
such a wish grant.
Yeah, Captain gets to blow the horn, but there is a little child inside me for sure. How many? You said 283 are waiting for their wish, but we're granting a wish here. Do you have a pipeline of people that are getting wishes this year, and what does that look like? Or
yes. So we are closing in on our fiscal year at the end of August, and our goal is to grant, I think we'll be around 220 this fiscal year, but we want to start out strong in September to grant the rest of the wishes and grant them as quickly as possible. The average wait time should be around 6 to 12 months. Of course, coming out of COVID, I know we talked about this last year. So our chapter made the decision, when the world shut down for travel, which I know you're very familiar with, we did not go back to our families and ask them to change their wish, or if they wanted to change their wish, we honored that one true wish. Right. So of course that delayed things a bit. And so now we're finally on that track of the healthy wait time of 6 to 12 months. If it were up to me, we would grant every wish tomorrow. I don't want any child waiting longer than they have to, especially while going through something so difficult. I think one thing I'm super proud of our organization for is we always make sure, especially with travel wishes, that the child is traveling at a time where they're healthy and they are comfortable to travel so that they can enjoy their wish to the best of their ability, which I'm so excited that you're traveling next month and that you're doing great. And I believe it's your first cruise?
Yes.
Amazing. Hey. New experience.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of new experiences. You're going to see that ship, and it's so huge when you're walking up to it, and then once you get on it, like a 7-day cruise, you'll have plenty of time to explore. And like we were talking in the lobby just a minute ago, I've been on a couple of 7-day cruises, and at the end of the cruise, when you're leaving the ship, you're like, oh, I never saw that before, and I never saw that. They're just magnificent. So very excited for you. All right. So we're trying to raise $150,000 for this year. That's going to be our goal, our starting goal, because that's where we ended off last year. I'd love to blow the roof off of that this year. And if there's anybody out there that is listening to this and just wants to wipe your slate clean, right? It's going to be what, $2.83 million. Anybody just want to write a check for that? Just, reach out to the email down below, and
let's clear the pipeline today.
We'll clear the pipeline out, and I'm sure there'll be more to fill that need.
Well, I always say, it's funny you said that. My dream is for us to go out of business. I wish we didn't exist, and that we didn't live in a world where children were fighting these illnesses.
Right. So one of the questions I have is, all right, so it's Make-A-Wish of Eastern North Carolina. There are other areas around the country that are Make-A-Wish. How much of what somebody gives of that $10,000 goes towards the wish?
Great question. So to explain the federated model a little bit further. So there's 57 different Make-A-Wish chapters. I'm the CEO of Make-A-Wish Eastern North Carolina. And I would say a huge misconception is people do not realize we're local. I don't know that you and your followers do. So all of our kids come from Eastern North Carolina, the 49 counties, Chapel Hill East, and then all of our money comes from here as well. So I solicit only in Eastern North Carolina. And so we're really proud here of our chapter. 76% goes directly to programming, which is it's something that we're proud of, and that we want all of our money to go directly to wishes and to granting all of the wishes in our pipeline, and then the ones that we haven't yet reached yet.
Yeah, and that's important, I think, for people to hear, because there are some costs associated with it. You have to pay the electric bill and
of course,
and they keep the heat on and all that stuff, and you have to put ink in the printer, and there are expenses. But I think people hear the horror stories about $9 out of every 10 goes to administrative costs. That's not the case with you guys at all.
No, we're really proud of our program expense ratio.
And tons of volunteers.
Absolutely. We would not exist without our volunteers. They are the backbone of our organization. We have around 150 right now, always looking for more. It's the most intimate experience too, to go meet with the families and discover the wish. But yes, we have a small team. We're very lean, small team of 13, including me, and 150 volunteers that make the world go round. And that's something I'm super passionate about. I'm a big believer in turning passion into purpose. And all 13 of our staff members, and of course all of our volunteers too, are there because they are passionate, active learners who just want to make a difference every day. And I just, again, feel so lucky that I get to do this. And days like today, sitting here with you, a huge wish maker in our community, and sitting here with Kaylyn, a superstar, these are the best days to get to come and hear your story, and that I get to share these stories with donors. Like, how lucky am I?
Fantastic. So, Kaylyn, so we've heard your diagnosis and your story leading up to this. We know what your wish is now. What's in the future for you? What do you want to do?
So, right now I'm going into my senior year of high school. I plan to go to college. I plan to do something in the medical field. I know it's like, it definitely had me questioning after everything I went through, like, do I really want to do something in the medical field? But there's always different options. Like, it's not just one thing that, just because I went through that doesn't mean like, it has to change like what I want my future to look like. So I think I definitely still want to stick to something in the medical field, whether that's helping children or helping older people, just something different.
Did your journey, your diagnosis change what you wanted to do with your future? Or have you always wanted to do that?
So in the moment, I definitely didn't want anything to do in the medical field. Just because it was very traumatizing, something that definitely like changed everything for me. So in the moment, I did not want anything in the medical field. But now after, I realized that, they helped me. They really, got me to where I am. When I would sit there and cry, when I would, just didn't want to be there, they would sit with me and they would talk to me and they would cheer me up. And, that was very heartwarming to me, knowing that they not only there to do their job, but they're there to be you, to be by your side and through it all with you. So that really
they love
was something I want to do.
But it's interesting because there's times in life where you're thinking, okay, what do I want to do with my life? When I was 17, I was wondering, and I had 4 or 5 different things I wanted to do. Being a pilot wasn't one of them. And being a content generator wasn't one of them. So, the journey ahead might be some surprises for you. But, what I've learned from you so far is that even though there's been some weakness in your body, your spirit is really strong. And out of that, you develop a certain tenacity in your character. And that type of person is the kind of person that always wants to give, right? They want to serve. And so our prayer is just going to be that road, as you take the steps down that road, that the doors open up for you.
Yes.
And I think you'll make a great caregiver, a doctor, a nurse, physical therapist. There's so many different things you can do in the medical field. So, well, Kaylyn, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yes.
It's really been a joy to have you here today.
Yes, I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah.
It's really cool to hear about what you're thinking about in your future too. So my cousin is a wish kid, and he actually, he inspired what I do today. So back to that, turning that passion into purpose. When my cousin was in middle school and back when I was in high school, he was battling osteosarcoma, relapsed 4 times. And I had actually, unlike you, heard of Make-A-Wish, but I had no idea, and I'm sure you can relate, the impact until your family hears those words and they actually go through it. And just seeing my cousin go on his wish trip to Hawaii with his siblings and my aunt and uncle, and how he didn't have to think about treatment or anything negative or bad. He just got to live and be celebrated and loved just like you. That changed everything for me. So I actually started out in the corporate world and quit after 6 months. People will tell you not to do that, but I'm a bit of a risk taker. And I knew, I was like, I'm going to work at Make-A-Wish one day. And so I applied. The very first position in Make-A-Wish Eastern North Carolina was a bilingual wish manager. And I do not speak Spanish. I wish I did. But I applied and I was like, I will do Duolingo tonight. Please, I want this job so badly. Yeah, and I just felt that calling, similar to what you're feeling for the medical field in my heart. They didn't hire me, which is a great choice. Our bilingual wish manager today has been here for 8 years and way better than I could ever be. So lucky.
Speaking 2 languages is, I guess it's kind of helpful, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it can't happen overnight.
Right.
She's incredible, but they took a shot on me a month later as the volunteer manager. And I'm just so fortunate to have worn several different hats and ultimately lead the organization. But I just hope you keep that passion alive because your story is so powerful and people are going to look up to you and you're making such a difference. So thank you for being honest and vulnerable. And I'm lucky to know you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So Kaylyn, thank you for coming. Mary Elizabeth, as always, thank you for the great work that you do.
Thank you, Captain Steve, and your community.
Well, yeah, that's what we do here. But that's, and there's more to come, right, down the road. So folks, $150,000 is going to be our goal this year. I'm hoping that we blow the lid off of that. But at a minimum, even if you can't give, just pray for the 283 kids that are in the pipeline just here in Eastern North Carolina, that we be able to grant their wishes in a timely manner. And like you said, get a little break from all of the stuff that goes on associated with a diagnosis that's life-changing. All right. Thanks for joining us today.